Hey guys, I just want to go over a couple things that we've never really talked about in type. We have talked about a typeface or a font, and I just want to reiterate that one. A typeface is the design of the letter forms. The font is the delivery mechanism. Really, when we're talking about the characteristics of a letter form, it's a typeface. The font is simply how we get those letter forms onto our computer and that sort of thing. Now, the second thing, that's a really easy one. The second one is a little bit harder. Um, you probably have noticed that when you are in InDesign and you are looking for typefaces, as you scroll down, you're going to see that there are different symbols over on this right hand side. So there's an O that stands for OpenType, A is for Adobe, TT is for TrueType. So those are three different sort of styles of typefaces that have been designed. Um, some of them are older than other ones. If you have a open typeface, a lot of times one of the things that you can find are glyphs or alternates. And what that basically means is sometimes when you're using a typeface, it has hundreds and sometimes thousands of other characters designed or glyphs designed. Um, so if you take, for instance, I've got Adobe Caslon Pro open up, and this is an uh, open type. So if I go up under my preferences, and I go under preferences, and then I go down to advanced type, I click on that. Um, I can scroll down here, and if you see type contextual controls, I've got these two things clicked. Show for character alternates, fractions, ligatures. Um, so I'll turn these on, and what that does is if the type has an alternate, it will come up. So if you see as I scroll over this T, you see that there's basically two types of T's that have been designed for this typeface. So if I roll over it, you can see it's a smaller T. So that is pretty much the case. So if you look here, one of the glyphs that they've designed is kind of this, and I should blow that up so you can see it. It's kind of a ornate character, and so a lot of older, more traditional typefaces that are well designed will have tons of glyphs and alternates. Alternates is simply referring to like an alternate letter, right? So if I click on there, you can see that there's an alternate F in the system, and so those will come up when you roll over a single letter. The other way to look at these things is if you go under Window, I believe that's it. If you go under Type and then down to Glyphs and you click on Glyphs, this will give you, it will bring up a palette of every character that has been designed for Caslon. So all of these characters are available to you, and they all do different things. So if you kind of look up here, these numbers, these are all different styles of numbers. So there's numbers that line up on a line. There's traditional numbers that drop beneath the line. There are characters. So there's a ton of these in a lot of typefaces. So the interesting thing about that is when you look at when you actually look at many typefaces, some of the alternates can look completely different than the original sort of, like if you look at the R, you'll see that in this case, it's somewhat different. It's smaller, so I'm going to bring up another one. So I've opened up Haglos, which is a script typeface. You can see I have it you can see I have it selected up here. So if I scroll over or select one of the letter forms, so have a look at the way this D is designed. So they've created alternates for the D's, and if you scroll over it, there you go. So if I click on that, look at the difference between those D's, right? Completely different. So if look at this one that loops up and over. So if you're doing something like, you know, a headline or some sort of or a logo, or, you know, something where there isn't, it's not setting a bunch of type, these things are pretty interesting. So, you know, if I look at, like, say, if I go to an A and I scroll over here, actually, if I just make this a lowercase a, oops, and just give myself some space. So look at the different versions of the lowercase a here. So you can see it there. Now the other thing is, when you open your Glyphs palette, you can see all of the characters that are offered. So you know, there's some very interesting, if I sort of click on this, so if you double click on these, so I've got the A selected. If I double click, it's sort of showing you all the different symbols that are offered for this typeface. So pretty interesting. Those are alternates, and they come up in your Glyphs palette. So if you're ever looking for, you know, something where there's a, you know, there's often a secondary secondary alternates for a lot of these typefaces. So you can sort of see with this Caslon, symbols, also fractions, numbers. So you'll learn more about the glyphs and alternates in type 2, but be aware that most typefaces, especially open typefaces, do have alternates, and you can find them under glyphs. One of the other things that you can find in glyphs, in your glyphs palette, is ligatures. Now, ligatures are basically characters that have been designed in a typeface that will take two letters that don't sit very nicely together. For instance, when we look at Floyd, you can see that that F and that L have some real issues with each other. That's because the F in this typeface arcs way over, and the L is so narrow that the actual spacing basically touches. And you can see how sort of rough that looks up in here. So if you if you have your character panel open, so if you go type character, if you go up on the top here and click on it, you can scroll down, and in here you can bring up click on ligatures, and that will turn ligatures on for a certain amount of letters. So if I click on ligatures, now look at what's happened here. The typeface is actually being designed to have an F and an L next to each other. So if you go down under in your glyph palette, you can see for this typeface what ligatures there are. So if I'm going to turn off my ligatures again, and then I'm just going to type out a few things. So I'm going to type out FL. Those are always problematic ones, and ligatures typically are always sort of, or very often are the same sort of letters come up in ligatures. I'm just going to scroll down. Just going to turn this off. So you can see, so FL, FT are two pretty common ones. lowercase fj, again, you can see my ligatures are turned on there. So then if we actually look at these, you'll even have ones where if you have 3 letters in a row, and this is pretty rare, FF, J, really strange combination, right? Or FFL. Well, there are certain instances where you'll have those letters in a row. So if we look at all of these combinations of letters, and we go over and go, okay, well, if you click on if you look at how I'm rolling over the bottom of it, there's a ligature, right? If I select this and I roll over this, so let's just see. Let's just select that. I'll go up under here. And I think there is an FT, but I could be wrong. Maybe there is not an FT in Caslon. There may not be. But there is, if you select FJ, there, so you'll see that it pops up under here, right? So that is what an FJ looks like. And if you select FJ, again, they've actually designed a character for 2 Fs and a J. So it's pretty interesting. You don't, if you're setting a lot of body copy, you traditionally, yeah, I mean, if it's a lot of body copy, I tend not to use ligatures, but sometimes it gives you a very interesting kind of look and feel. With this particular typeface, I don't actually love the way the F and the L ligature looks either. It ends up looking like a capital A, but yeah, so that is just one more thing that is offered in your Glyphs palette. So yeah, that's it. Okay, so today we are going to use all of these things, and you are going to typeset and design a one-page document. Within this document, there are a few limits. Before we do it, I am going to show you a couple more things that you're going to incorporate today. So I've seen quite a few of you have done drop caps. A drop cap is basically, if we don't start this story with an introduction, then if I don't have an introduction, then I might use a drop cap at the beginning of the story, and it really is just a visual cue to tell the reader that this is where the story starts. So the first thing I do if I'm going to do a drop cap is copy and paste and delete the first letter that I'm going to put in there. Then you could do this all with style sheets and nested styles, but in this case, we're just going to do a real dead simple one. So if I take the I, and drop caps are typically, there's no rhyme or reason to how large you make your drop cap. A lot of times it depends on the style that you want to go for with your document. What I'll do is I'll bring up my text wrap, and I'm simply going to use the a single box to do my drop cap. So first thing I'm going to do is we're going to try one that is basically nested within the actual paragraph. So if I go up to my text wrap, and if I click on this third one in here, it allows me to determine where, how much of the text is going to be pushed over. So really, when you do a drop cap, it really should be the same as any other sort of type. You want to have some space in there. So what I'll do is I'll create sort of, there's a couple different things. One of the things I want to do is that when I design this drop cap, I'm basically going to have it either go to the top of the letters or the X height. So if we go to the cap height, we do that, and then I'm just going to adjust my drop cap like that. So now we know it kind of lines up with the top of the letters. But the other nice thing is for these things to really sit nicely, you want them to be sitting on one of the baselines. So then I'm probably going to, in this case, I'm just going to reduce it down, and there you see now it's basically sitting on this baseline. So now that I have it sort of in the position, I can sort of select it and go, okay, so text beneath, I can adjust that so you'll see as it moves down. I will typically knock out one or two lines underneath it, and then move it over this way as well. So you sort of see as we kind of zoom out. If I hide my guides and I hide my edges, so if you see what that looks like there, really what we're dealing with is too much space underneath it. So I'm going to adjust that until I bring up one more line, and something like that is a little bit better. Now, again, the size of the drop cap is totally up to you. It depends on what you're going to do above the drop cap. So you definitely don't want it to overwhelm your headline type things. But there are instances where you could absolutely have something in that range. And again, I would adjust it until it sits on a baseline, and change the spacing a little bit. Now, the other kind of style of drop cap that is fairly popular are ones that basically start just outside of the actual paragraph themselves. So you could do something like that, and it doesn't really matter if it's serif or sans serif with drop caps. So the last thing I want to show you with this video is how to figure out extra spaces, paragraph breaks, and when they need to be fixed, when they're missing, and that sort of thing. So oftentimes when you get text from a client, they may have typed it and put 2 spaces after a period, which used to be correct when you did it with a typewriter, but now you literally have 1 space after a period. The other thing is sometimes when they give you the text, you'll get something like this, where if you look at it closely, there should be paragraph breaks in there, and we can see that because there's all these instances as we go down these columns of areas where there's a break in the type, and that's basically indicating to me that there used to be paragraph breaks and they've been lost. So there is a couple tools that I will use to sort of determine how to fix this. So the first one is sometimes when I'm setting type, if I want to see just see what if there's extra spaces and things like that without doing a search, I'll actually go up and go type show hidden characters. Now, if you see what that looks like, we zoom in there, you can see that each space is represented by a dot, and then the other thing that you see here is this symbol right here represents a paragraph break, and that's how just by looking at it we can see I don't see any sort of double spaces after periods, but I see a whole lot of paragraph breaks. So when we want to change that, because you can never really have a paragraph that ends like that. So there you have 2 options. So if this is the end of our paragraph, so forces that shape our voices, you either are going to have a return where there is a break, or the other way you can do it is if you decide you don't want to put breaks in it, you can put an indent like that, and you You don't use the space bar, but that's for another day. But those are the two ways. So if you don't want to have any breaks and you're sort of hard pressed for space, you can do an indent. And those are very easy to do too. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through my document, and I need to fix those returns. So if I have the type selected, if I go up and so if you go under type, is it, oh, sorry, my computer's just slowing down here. So I have a view of my text in my document, and you don't even have to select all of the text. You can just simply be on the text box, and it can just be sitting there. So if I do that and I go up under edit, find change, so edit, find change, or Command F if you want to learn the shortcut, it will bring up this palette. Within that palette, it will allow you to look for certain tendencies in the document and change them. So you're finding things and you're deciding if you're going to change them. So if I go back to my document and I highlight one of those symbols that represents a paragraph break, I can simply copy it and then paste it. So you can see the symbol shows up there. So if I simply select one of those, we're just going to delete this. If I simply select one of those paragraph breaks and I paste it in, when I paste it in, it changes it to this symbol. Now, if I want to get space in there, I'm going to paste it in again, and then I'm going to paste it in right next to it. And what that does is it basically is putting in two returns. So when I put that in, I'll go find next. And so it's going to look for the next instance, and you can see it's highlighted the one that I was on. If I go change, you'll see that it pushes a space in there. If I go find next, I'll just select this and go find next. Yeah, sorry, one space. So if I go, oh, sorry, and just, what did I paste in wrong here? So there, if I go change all, what it's going to do is it's going to find every instance of those paragraph symbols, and it's going to change it to 2. So if I go OK, and I pull this back, you can see now it's put in all of the paragraphs where they really should go. And in fact, a couple here, there was already some in there, so I'll just go out and delete it. So with that, it basically will fix then the way this article was supposed to be read. So now the one thing that does do is it will add a lot of text to your document. So let's just see how much text we have. Okay, so for today, as an in-class exercise, you are going to use every single element that we've looked at. So you are going to take this raw document, you are going to fix the paragraph breaks so that we get some paragraph breaks. You are going to have a drop cap. You're going to have a title. You are going to, in the title, you are going to select a typeface that has an alternate letter in it. So if I'm on so if I look at some of the alternate letters in this typeface, you'll see that they have a few, not too many. So what you're going to do with your title is you're going to select a typeface that has an alternate, and you're going to show an alternate letter form in the title, the Queen. There is a short introduction here that you can work on. You're going to have a drop cap. You're going to determine what you do with that, what the size is. We're going to stick to, again, 2 colors. So it can be black plastic color, or it can be shades of black plastic color. That's up to you. So headline, intro copy, drop cap, fixing the paragraph breaks. You're going to have a pull quote in there. You're going to determine which paragraph in here warrants a pull quote. And that is it. You are going to determine the margins. You're going to determine the typeface, the size. Again, remember, this is body copy. And you are going to do your best to design something memorable using all of these things. So pretty much everything we did with the alley posters, you'll do here, except without the image. So I'm simply using the headline, the Queen. Whatever you want to do with the Queen is up to you. That doesn't sound very good. Whatever you want to do with the headline, the Queen, is up to you. If you want it to, be bold or whatever, I'm going to leave that entirely up to you. You could have it bold and tinted, and you could have text running across it. What I again want to convey to you is that the body copy is there to be read. So I don't want to, again, see things that are slanted and flipped and upside down. The body copy is there for a reason, and it's because we want people to read this article. So using all of those things that we've learned, so finding an alternate letter for the headline, drop cap, intro, pull quote, fix the spacing, and work